It's inappropriate, Larry. Don't do that. I'm watching you. This is Buddhist Books Podcast, episode 239, Tipiṭaka, part 157, Mahāvagga IV, part 2, in which I will continue reading Mahāvagga IV, picking up right where we left off last time. I, for one, am very happy to have the microphone back, and I sincerely apologize to everyone who watched or listened to Mahāvagga IV Part 1. It wasn't very good. The audio quality wasn't good, and there were a couple of editing cues that I missed when I was editing, so they can't all be winners. Let's keep our fingers crossed that today will be one of the better ones. I will jump right into it. If you would like to start at the beginning of the Tipiṭaka, you can click right there. That's the playlist. Now, at that time, his relations got hold of a certain monk on an invitation day. Okay. So that monk's relations, I think. At first it seemed like it was continuing from a previous story, but I think it's just saying that a monk's relations got hold of him on an invitation day. 3 dots, parentheses, the Pali Text Society. Thank you, the Pali Text Society. It was such a good effort translating all this. But unfortunately, as in this example, these parentheses say, go back and watch Mahāvagga II. So like 20, 25 episodes ago, something like that, there was a similar situation that came up. And copy-paste whatever was there here. So, yeah, they're treating it as a not very well put together sort of research paper, as opposed to scripture. That's my only issue with the Pali Text Society. It was 1930. Maybe they're different now. I think that there's fewer like intellectually curious people going, what were these Eastern people thinking in ancient times? Interesting. And now there's possibly more people who are, taking it on another level, maybe a more personal level than back then, 100 years ago. Okay, so yeah, back then it said observance day. So there was a similar situation for an observance day where the monk's relations got a hold of him, and so you just read that again, but substitute invitation day instead of observance day. 3 dots. Okay, all right. I'm still feeling optimistic. This is going to be a good episode, I promise. Now, at that time, 5 monks were staying in a certain residence on an invitation day. Then it occurred to these monks, quote, "It is laid down by the Lord that an order may invite, but we are, parentheses, only, and parentheses, 5 persons. Now, how can we invite?" End quote. So invite means all the monks get together and talk about what bad things Larry the monk did. And then they decide what to do about it. And it's something that they do once a month. It's said the 14th and 15th day. And then I think what it is the recital of the rules is the 14th and 15th day of the half month. And maybe the 14th and 15th day is different from that. Maybe that's actually the opposite end of the month. So like the full moon, the new moon, something like that. I don't know. Any scholars? Comment below. Okay, dog says hi. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, quote, I allow you, monks, to invite in an order of 5. End quote. Problem solved. Now at that time 5 monks were staying in a certain residence on an invitation day. Then it occurred to these monks, quote, it is allowed by the Lord to invite in an order of 5, but we are parentheses only and parentheses 4 persons. Oh, I read 5 at the beginning of that. It said 4. My mistake. So 4 people. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, quote, I allow you, monks, to invite one another when you are parentheses only and parentheses 4. Obviously, this is 4 in number, not 4 years old. He covered that in an earlier rule. And thus, monks should one invite. These monks should be informed by an experienced, competent monk, saying, quote within quotes, so this is Lord Buddha instructing, and he's quoting what they should say, so hence, quote within quotes. Let the venerable ones listen to me. Today is an invitation day. If it seems right to the venerable ones, let us invite one another. End quote within quotes. These monks should be spoken to thus by a monk who is an elder, having arranged his upper robe over one shoulder, having sat down on his haunches, having saluted with joined palms, quote within quotes, I, your reverences, invite the venerable ones in regard to what has been seen or heard or suspected. If you see something, say something. That wasn't in the text, that was... let the venerable ones speak to me out of compassion, and seeing I will make amends. So, out of compassion, they put that phrase in clearly because you're not telling on each other out of spite to get each other into trouble. You're letting the elders know if someone has a bad habit, that they're concealing, because for their sake, out of compassion, you want to help them, right? That's the idea. And a second time, 3 dots, and a third time, 3 dots, and seeing I will make amends. End quote within quotes. These monks should be spoken to thus by a newly ordained monk, having arranged 3 dots, quote within quotes, I, honored sirs, invite the venerable ones in regard to what has been seen or heard or suspected. 3 dots, and a second time, 3 dots, and a third time, 3 dots, and seeing I will make amends. End quote within quotes, end quote. Now, it may seem like silly that they repeat everything 3 times, but it's not that silly. Have you ever been to an airport and they say, flight 6E27 is ready for boarding, and then a little while later, okay, everybody, flight 6E2, ready for boarding. And then even after they've said it 3 times, and then last call, Larry, where are you, Larry? Then Larry comes running from the bathroom, like, what was he doing in the bathroom that whole time? So when you have an order of monks, the elder monk stands up and says, hey, this is what we're doing now. There's going to be 1 or 2 monks that are maybe like thinking about something, doing something spaced out. What did he say something? Is he talking to me? He's talking to us. I thought he was talking to someone else. What's happening? This is an invitation day. Oh, it's an invitation day. I saw Larry doing something inappropriate last night. Always Larry. I don't know. It's just a fun name. Continuing. Now, at that time, 3 monks were staying in a certain residence on an invitation day. Then it occurred to these monks, quote, it is allowed by the Lord to invite in an order of 5 persons, and to invite one another when there are 4. But we are, parentheses only, and parentheses 3 persons. Now how can we invite? End quote, in quotes. Or end quotes. This is the narrator talking, not Lord Buddha speaking. This is the... Never mind. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, quote, I allow you, monks, to invite one another when you are, parentheses, only, end parentheses, 3. And thus, monks, should one invite. These monks should be informed, 3 dots, parentheses, it's all the same stuff, the same, that long thing where he says everything 3 times and repeats it and all that. Thus saith the Polytech Society, and in this example, because it wasn't like 100 years ago, it wasn't in the first book where we're on the 4th one, for instance. I'm glad that they put that in 3 dots. Sometimes, it's hit and miss with the 3 dots and the parenthesis. So all the same as like what we literally just read. I will make amends. End quote within quotes, end quotes. Now at that time, 2 monks were staying in a certain residence on an invitation day. I'm going to predict that 2 is not enough. Who are you going to report? Hey, Larry, I saw you doing something naughty last night when you thought nobody was looking. I'm going to tell you on you. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to punish you? It just doesn't work with 2 people. It's like Uno. You can play Uno with 2 people, but the reverse card doesn't work very well. Sorry. Okay. Then it occurred to these monks, quote, it is allowed by the Lord to invite in an order of 5, parentheses, persons, end parentheses, to invite one another when there are 4, to invite one another when there are 3. But we are, parentheses, only, and parentheses, 2 persons. Now how can we invite, end quote. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, quote, I allow you, monks, to invite one another when you are, parentheses, only, and parentheses, 2, end quote. Well, all right. I guess, yeah, sure. I mean, I guess it's not worth the trouble of going and finding another monk, of traveling, a long journey to go join another group just so you can tell on each other. So, okay, all right. So if you're in a group of 2 monks and one of them's like, hey, I noticed you ate a little extra last night. You're not supposed to eat that much. Remember, you're supposed to not cling. Hey, I noticed you looking at that person a little too long with licking your lips. It's inappropriate, Larry. Don't do that. I'm watching you, Okay, 2 monks. You can tell each other on each other. Good. Okay. And thus, monks, should one invite the monk who is the elder, having arranged his upper robe over one shoulder, having sat down on his haunches, having saluted with joined palms, should speak thus to the newly ordained monk, quote within quotes, I, your reverence, invite the venerable one in regard to what has been seen or heard or suspected. Let the venerable one speak to me out of compassion, and seeing I will make amends. And a second time, 3 dots, and a third time, 3 dots, and seeing I will make amends. End quote, then quotes. The newly ordained monk, having arranged his upper robe, 3 dots, with joined palms, should speak thus to the monk who is the elder. Quote within quotes, I, honored sir, invite the venerable one, 3 dots, and a third time, 3 dots, and seeing I will make amends. End quote within quotes, end quotes. Now, at that time, 1 monk. Okay, surely 1 is too few. How would that even work? Now at that time, 1 monk was staying in a certain residence on an invitation day. Then it occurred to that monk, quote, it is allowed by the Lord to invite in an order of 5, parentheses, persons, end parentheses, to invite one another, 3 dots, when there are, parentheses, only, and parentheses, 2, but I am alone. Now, how can I invite? That's a fair question. End quote. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, quote, this is the case, monks, where 1 monk is staying in a certain residence on an invitation day. Monks, that monk, having swept the place to which monks return, an attendance hall or a pavilion or the root of a tree, having put out drinking water and water for washing, having made ready a seat, having made a light, should sit down. If other monks arrive, he may invite together with them. If they do not arrive, he should determine, quote within quotes, today is an invitation day for me, end quote within quotes. If he should not, parentheses, so, end parentheses, determine, there is an offense of wrongdoing. Wow. Okay. So you sit, you prepare the space like you're expecting guests. If guests don't arrive, then you declare alone. I'm like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting with just you, like you're the host of the meeting, and it's on your honor, You just sit there and say, hello, everybody. My name's Edward, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Edward. Yesterday, I drove my car into the bushes. I've been sober for 9 hours now. And then you clap for yourself. It's like that, is what I'm saying. Similar. Monks. There where 5 monks are staying, 4 should not invite in an order. Having conveyed the invitation for 1, if they should so invite, there's an offense of wrongdoing. Okay, so when there's a group of 5, it should be all 5. Right. Monks. Where there are 4 monks staying, 3 should not invite one another. It should be all 4. Having conveyed the invitation for 1. If they should, parentheses, so, end parentheses, invite, there is an offense of wrongdoing. Monks, where there are 3 monks staying, 2 should not invite one another, having conveyed the invitation for 1. If they should, parentheses, so, end parentheses, invite, there is an offense of wrongdoing. Monks, there where 2 monks are staying, 1 should not determine, having conveyed the invitation for the other. If he should, parentheses, so, end parentheses, determine, there is an offense of wrongdoing, end quote. Now, I'm wondering if conveying the invitation was something we covered before and it just left my brain. Maybe that's like if a monk is ill, then you convey the invitation for them. Like you declare complete purity or something when it's an observance day. I'll have to re-listen to the last couple episodes. Okay. Now at that time, a certain monk came to have fallen into an offense on an invitation day. Then it occurred to this monk, quote, it is laid down by the Lord that an offender should not invite, and I have fallen into an offense. Now what line of conduct should be followed by me? End quote. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, quote, this is a case, monks, 3 dots, parentheses, the Pali Text Society wants you to know, to just flip back 100 pages or so, or if you're on the podcast, just like pick a random episode in Mahāvagga IV and listen to the whole thing, and maybe the same situation will come up with the observance days, and then copy paste what I said back then and put that here, because they're tired of it. They don't want to translate it. It's too much. End parentheses, 3 dots. Thank you, Pali Text Society. When he has spoken thus, he may invite, but no obstacle should be put in the way of the invitation from such a cause, end quote. So basically, the invitation day is largely treated almost exactly the same as the observance day. Okay. Now at that time, a certain monk, as he was himself inviting, remembered an offense. Then it occurred to this monk, quote, it is laid down by the Lord that an offender should not invite. And I have fallen into an offense. Now, what line of conduct should be followed by me? End quote. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, quote, this is a case, monks, where a monk, as he is himself inviting, remembers an offense. Monks, this monk should speak thus to the monk next to him. Quote within quotes, I, your reverence, have fallen into such and such an offense, removing from here, I will make amends for that offense, end quote within quotes. When he has spoken thus, he may invite, but no obstacle should be put in the way of the invitation from such a cause. This is a case, monks, where a monk, as he is himself inviting, becomes doubtful about an offense. Monks, parentheses, it's the same as when that situation comes up on an observance day. We covered this in Mahāvagga IV. End parentheses, 3 dots. When he has spoken thus, he may invite, but no obstacle should be put in the way of the invitation from such a cause. End quote. Told is the first portion for repeating. We finished a section. I know that this is going to be a little bit shorter. Generally, I aim for half an hour with these Buddhist Books episodes. And so I don't know, I just wanted to say welcome to the new folks for some reason. Now, generally, if a month ago I had checked the analytics for the YouTube version of this podcast, for the people on the audio-only podcast listening through Spotify or Apple Podcast or any other podcasting platform, just bear with me, this is specifically about YouTube. When I looked what countries are watching my videos, it would say number 1, India, and then number 2, Bhutan, number 3, Nepal, and a distant 4th. It's 1% of people are in the United States of America. But for whatever reason, I didn't do any kind of promo or anything for Shingon Part 3, Shingon Buddhism Part 3, but YouTube decided to show it to like 40,000 people. In other words, to have it show up on their videos when they're scrolling, like, what do you want to watch today? And 2,000 something people watched at least the beginning, and 40 people clicked like. And a few people, like, I don't remember the exact number, I think like 8 or 10 people subscribed. And now when I look at the analytics, I see that there are people in the United States who are starting at the beginning of Buddhist Books Podcast with Dhammapada back in 2021 when I started the podcast. And there are a few that are starting at the beginning of Tipiṭaka. People are going and watching the introduction video. And so I don't know why YouTube decided to promote that video so much, or, there seems to be particularly more interest. I think it's like supply and demand. There's people with interest in Shingon Buddhism and not as much content about Shingon Buddhism, perhaps, at this 2024 moment. Whereas, 70 years ago, there were people interested in Zen Buddhism. And, not that there aren't today, but it's now there's a massive amount of content for people who are interested in Zen Buddhism. And Tibetan Buddhism, I think that, from the occupation of Tibet onward through the 70s and 80s, right up until Disney decided to make an evil alliance with the Chinese Communist Party, which happened in 1997, I believe, or maybe 1998. And then Tibet is barely mentioned, if at all. Rarely ever mentioned in any kind of media in the U.S. But before that, it was like, every other movie, not every other movie, but a lot of movies. Even Doctor Strange learned from a Tibetan master they made into Tilda Swanson. Maybe I got her name wrong, but her character was supposed to be a Tibetan master. They just pretend Tibet doesn't exist. As far as they're willing to go is to acknowledge that Kathmandu exists. It's Nepal, What am I saying? Anyway, yeah. So at different times, different forms of Buddhism are popular, I guess, and the amount of media that's out there for them to explore is less or more. And I don't know. So for whatever reason, that happened. I'm talking too much, aren't I? Sorry about that. It happens. The chattering monkey. But I maintain that as dull as the Vinaya Piṭaka is, the thing is, I went through a long process. And that long process finally came around to acknowledging that there was a foundation stone missing from my Buddhism house. It wasn't missing, it was there, it's just I wasn't consciously aware of it. That foundation stone, there are 3 big stones at the base of everyone's Buddhism house. And they are the Vinaya Piṭaka, the Tipiṭaka, and the Abhidhamma Piṭaka. I think I got that right. The rules, the teachings, and then like the deeper, higher doctrine. And some of it is like indirectly made reference to in various teachings of Mahayana, Vajrayana, and Zen. But I, for one, really wanted to delve in, to dive down in a lot of depictions in Thangka. There's the Vairocana Buddha, or there's like, the great, Buddha that I don't know at what point in history was introduced to the world as far as like in which scriptures. But at the time that this was being practiced, didn't exist according to objective reality. I mean, the way that a lot of things are written are like, okay, you've heard of Lord Buddha, right? Siddhartha Gautama. Well, 10,000 years before him, there was this guy. And it's like, really? Who says? I do. I dreamt it last night, and it was a very vivid, important dream. And it's like, I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but this is history. This is Lord Buddha. This is where it started. But in those Thangkas, you'll have Vairocana in the center, and you'll have like Bodhisattva, like Chenrezig or Avalokiteshvara, or over on one side, and then down here in the corner, you have these like rough-looking, down like under a tree. You've got like these little guys, these weird-looking guys, and who are that? Oh, that's the historical Buddha with the arhats. So that's kind of like, yeah, well, that's also your origin, So I don't know. I don't mean to go on about it. It's just, it's something I've chosen to delve into. And sometimes when I tell people, they're like, why? And it's like, well, because I want to be the one person who does that, who's not himself wearing an orange robe and living in Sri Lanka and going full Theravada. You know what I mean? I'm talking too much, and I made the episode half an hour after all. And all right, well, anyway, I just wanted to welcome those new people, and now perhaps turn half of them off with my rambling free association about it all. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And note that today is Buddhist Books 239, which means the next one will be 240, which means it ends with 0. That means we'll be reading the Life and Liberation of Padmasambhava. So if you're on the Tipiṭaka playlist, you will not hear that. But if you're on the main Buddhist Books playlist, you will hear that. I don't know what number we're up to, like number 13 or number 14, something like that. And also, on the main page, I created a Zen playlist. That's new, Zen Buddhism playlist. I took 3 of the episodes that were under special episodes and put them in the Zen playlist. They're not in order time-wise. They're in order in a way that I think makes sense to put them in. Because I was thinking about jumping back into that. Because acknowledging the amount of time it's taken me to read 4 books and looking at how many books there are in the Tipiṭaka, I don't know if I'm actually going to get to the 13th century in this lifetime. Unless I skip ahead a bit now and then. So sometime soon I'm going to put up an episode called Zen Buddhism Part 4. And Part 1 will have been the movie reaction to the movie called Zen about the life of Master Dogen that came out in 2009. Part 2 was the Fukan Zazengi that he penned when he got back to Japan after learning from the Soto-chan Buddhist temple in China. And then Part 3 will have been the Master Dogen's lecture on the topic of the Heart Sutra that I recited with Mahabodhi Temple behind me in Bodh Gaya. That's in reverse order, but in the order that I think makes sense for that playlist. I'll go ahead and do the closing now. Sorry about my rambling. To the north and to the south, to the east and to the west, to the spirits of light among us and to the spirits below, we send out our reverent love and compassion. May all beings be happy. May all beings be serene. May all beings be in peace. Until next time.